My 7-year-old granddaughter, Lily, looked up at me from the antique mahogany dining table, her fork hovering nervously over a piece of roasted chicken. Her big, soulful brown eyes, so much like her grandfather's, were wide with a fear that had no place in a child's heart. She leaned in, her voice a fragile whisper that barely cut through the gentle hum of the air conditioner. "Grandma," she asked, "am I allowed to have dinner tonight?" My heart didn't just break, it detonated. But it was the cold, warning glance my son shot me from across the room that told me this wasn't a child's quirky question. It was a symptom of something deeply, horrifyingly wrong. "Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I see you all filing in. Drop your city in the comments. Where are you tuning in from?" It's good to know I'm not alone in this. My name is Eleanor Vance, and for 35 years I've owned and operated the Palmetto House Inn, a historic bed and breakfast nestled in the heart of Charleston, South Carolina. My life has been about creating a haven of Southern comfort and hospitality. My late husband Frank and I poured our souls into this place. When he passed 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, he left a legacy of love and a carefully constructed trust fund for our only grandchild, Lily, to ensure she'd never want for anything. The trust was ironclad, or so I thought, with me as the sole trustee until Lily turned 25. My son Robert was a good boy, but always a bit pliable. He fell hard for Tiffany, a woman who seemed more in love with the idea of being a Charleston socialite than with my son. She was all sharp angles and calculated smiles, her ambition practically a second perfume. After they married and Lily was born, I tried to embrace her, for Robert's sake. But there was always a distance, a chill I couldn't quite put my finger on. Lately, though, things had gotten stranger. Lily, once a bubbly, bright little girl who loved painting messy pictures in my garden, had become a shadow. She was quiet, anxious, and had lost weight. When I'd bring it up, Tiffany would wave a dismissive hand. "Oh, it's just a phase, Eleanor. She's terribly sensitive. We have her on a special nutritionist-approved diet to manage her hyperactivity." Robert would just nod along, his eyes always avoiding mine. The red flags were there, fluttering in the periphery of my comfortable life. The hushed, tense phone calls that would end the moment I entered a room. The way Lily would flinch if she accidentally spilled a drop of juice. The way Tiffany would document every single one of these incidents in a little leather-bound notebook she carried everywhere. "For her child psychologist," she'd say with a saccharine smile. It all felt wrong, like a beautiful portrait with a crack spidering across the canvas. The night Lily asked if she was allowed to eat was the night the crack shattered the entire painting. After Robert and Tiffany left, their polite goodbyes feeling like shards of glass in the air, I sat in my silent dining room, staring at Lily's barely touched plate. The question echoed in my mind. Allowed? Food wasn't a privilege, it was a right, a comfort, an act of love. In my house, it was the currency of care. That one whispered question told me that in her own home, food had been turned into a weapon. My southern grace evaporated, replaced by the cold fury of a grandmother bear. The next day, I started my investigation. I began with a call to my oldest friend, Margaret, a bulldog of a family law attorney. I explained the situation, the weird diet, the constant documentation, Lily's fear. Margaret was quiet for a moment, the silence on the line heavy. "Eleanor," she said finally, her voice grim. "Frank's trust for Lily. What are the exact terms for you as trustee?" "I manage it until she's 25, I answered. "The only stipulation is that I must be of sound mind and body, and act in the child's best interest." "Because," Why? Margaret said slowly, "if a trustee is found to be unfit, or if the child's primary caregivers can prove the child has special needs requiring direct management of funds, they can petition the court to have the trustee removed and control of the trust reassigned to them." The world tilted. It wasn't just about control. It was about money. Frank had left a substantial fortune for Lily, one that would guarantee her independence for life. A fortune that Robert and Tiffany couldn't touch for 18 more years. Unless they could prove I was an unfit guardian. Or worse, that Lily herself was so unstable, she required specialized financial oversight, theirs. They weren't just neglecting my granddaughter. They were systematically building a case against her, using a manufactured narrative of her being a problem child to get their hands on her inheritance. The nutritionist-approved diet was starvation. The psychologist was their pawn. The little leather-bound notebook was their evidence log. My blood ran ice cold. I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. I remembered Tiffany mentioning their new smart home system, complete with nanny cams. She'd bragged about it, saying it was for Lily's safety. I wondered what safety it was truly recording. My next step was risky. I tracked down their former nanny, a sweet girl named Isabella whom Tiffany had fired abruptly a few months back for not following the dietary plan precisely. I met Isabella at a small coffee shop far from the historic district. She was nervous, wringing her hands as she recounted her time with the family. Tiffany was obsessed, Isabella whispered, her eyes darting around. She had me write down everything Lily did. If she cried, if she didn't want to eat her 3 asparagus spears for lunch, if she had a nightmare. And the food? She gave me these tiny, pre-portioned meals for Lily. A 7-year-old's lunch was a few carrot sticks and a spoonful of hummus. Tiffany said it was to prevent inflammation. But Lily was always hungry, Eleanor. Always. She'd cry from it. My fists clenched under the table. Isabella, did you ever see any of the camera footage? She nodded. Tiffany would save clips. She'd show me Lily having a tantrum and say, "See? This is what we're dealing with." But the tantrum was because she'd been denied a proper meal all day. This was it. This was the heart of their monstrous plan. I asked Isabella if she had anything, any text message, any email, that could prove it. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. She sent me an email once before a doctor's appointment, Isabella said. She was angry I'd given Lily a banana as a snack. She forwarded it to me. I read it right there in the coffee shop, the world around me fading to a dull roar. Subject: important, pre-appointment protocol. Isabella, under no circumstances is Lily to have any fruit or carbs before her evaluation with Dr. Miller tomorrow. We need him to see her at her most volatile. Her behavior is our primary leverage. Stick to the approved list only. This is not a negotiation. Leverage. My granddaughter's hunger and pain were their leverage. I saved the email, a cold, calculated plan already forming in my mind. Tiffany had climbed the social ladder of Charleston with ferocious intensity. She was co-chairing the annual Magnolia Ball, the city's most prestigious charity event, in 2 weeks. It was her crowning achievement, her grand entrance into the society she so desperately wanted to conquer. And it would be the stage for her spectacular downfall. If you've ever had to fight for a child you love, hit that like button. It's a battle that changes you forever. The night of the Magnolia Ball was a classic Charleston affair. The air was thick with the scent of gardenias and old money. Twinkling lights draped the ancient oaks of the Boone Hall plantation. Tiffany was a vision in a glittering emerald gown, gliding through the crowd, her hand possessively on Robert's arm. My son looked pale and drawn, a ghost at his wife's glorious feast. I, in a simple navy blue dress, was a quiet observer, a ghost of a different kind. I had been asked to say a few words as a longtime benefactor of the children's hospital the ball supported. It was a tradition, a part of the program. Tiffany had personally ensured I was on the schedule, no doubt to add another layer of legitimacy to her perfect family facade. She had no idea she was handing me the microphone for her own execution. When my name was called, I walked to the podium with a steady calm that felt otherworldly. I looked out at the sea of Charleston's elite. I saw Tiffany beaming from the front table, whispering to the mayor's wife. "Good evening," I began, my voice clear and strong. "For decades, this community has come together to support our most vulnerable, our children. We build hospitals, we fund schools, we create safe havens. We do this because we believe every child deserves to be protected, to be nurtured, and above all, to be fed, in body and in spirit." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. I saw Tiffany's smile tighten just a fraction. "Legacy and inheritance are powerful things," I continued, my eyes finding my son's. "They can be a gift, a foundation for a beautiful life. Or they can become a motive for acts of unimaginable cruelty. Acts hidden behind the doors of beautiful homes in respectable neighborhoods." A murmur went through the crowd. I pulled a piece of paper from my clutch, a printout of Tiffany's email. "I want to read you an email," I said, my voice dropping, becoming intimate and deadly. "A pre-appointment protocol regarding the care of a 7-year-old child. It reads, under no circumstances is Lily to have any fruit or carbs before her evaluation with Dr. Miller tomorrow. We need him to see her at her most volatile. Her behavior is our primary leverage." A collective gasp swept through the ballroom. All eyes swiveled to Tiffany, whose face had gone from a triumphant glow to a mask of horrified disbelief. Her skin was the color of chalk. Robert looked like he was about to be physically ill. I didn't stop. "Leverage," I repeated, the word dripping with contempt. "Leverage to prove a healthy child is unstable. Leverage to petition the courts. Leverage to steal a trust fund. This is not about a special diet. This is about greed. This is about child abuse, happening right under our noses." I looked directly at Tiffany. "And it is being perpetrated by the co-chair of this very event, my daughter-in-law, Tiffany Vance, and my son, Robert." The chaos was immediate. The mayor's wife recoiled from Tiffany as if she'd been burned. Cameras that had been there for the society pages were now flashing furiously in her face. Tiffany stood, stumbling back, her mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. Robert just stared at me, his face a mess of shame and terror. The Magnolia Ball had turned into a public shaming, and the queen of the night was now the city's #1 pariah. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Margaret filed an emergency petition for guardianship of Lily the very next morning, armed with the email, Isabella's sworn affidavit, and the public humiliation from the ball. Child Protective Services launched an immediate investigation. The story was all over the local Charleston news. Robert and Tiffany were disgraced, their names stripped from every board and committee they had fought so hard to join. They lost everything they cared about in a single night. I won full custody of Lily. Robert, in a moment of what I hope was genuine remorse, didn't contest it. He and Tiffany are now embroiled in a messy divorce and facing potential criminal charges. I don't know if I'll ever truly forgive my son, but I know he was a weak man manipulated by a cruel woman. The real victim was Lily. My granddaughter now lives with me at the Palmetto house. The first few weeks were hard. She was timid, always asking permission for everything. But slowly, the light is returning to her eyes. The other day she baked cookies with me and got flour all over her face, and she just laughed. A real, full-bellied laugh. Last night, she not only ate a full dinner, but asked for a second helping of mashed potatoes without a trace of fear. That, right there, was my victory. My home is a haven once again, not just for my guests, but for the little girl who owns my heart. I've learned that sometimes, the most genteel Southern lady has to become a warrior to protect what she loves, and I would burn the whole world down for her. If this story hit home for you, hit the like button, comment 1 below, and if you feel comfortable, share a piece of your own story. You are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you for listening.